All right, today I'm excited to welcome Eric Burns to the show. Eric, thanks for joining me. How's it going today?
Hey, Brian, great to be on. Thank you very much. Doing great today. Looking forward to a conversation about, some detours and some pivots that we were talking off stage. And I love a good pivot. So looking forward to getting into it.
Awesome. Awesome. Eric, could you introduce yourself to my audience? Let them know who Eric Burns is, where you're at now. And I mean, to tell the story of how you got there, we kind of got to know where you're at, and then we'll circle back and talk about the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Eric Burns, founder of Flowers Capital out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I raise money for commercial real estate deals. So what I do is I take investors looking to get passive income in the commercial space and pair them with great investments, great markets, things like that. So my journey kind of landed me there, but I've gone from being a finance major to a 17-year firefighter to a residential investor and flipper, and then finally I took my latest pivot and I leaned into commercial space, and that's where I've been ever since. Really grateful to land there, but really grateful for the journey more than anything so far. Yeah.
I mean, it's a trip, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
you look back day to day. I look back and I'm like, wow, if I had made this decision or that decision, my life would be completely different, but I wouldn't be right where I am, and I'm okay with where I'm at. So
Absolutely, I
it
love it.
definitely builds who you're at, who you are. Along the way. But let's go back to when you were a kid. I mean, you said you were a finance major. I assume that's in college. Before that, like when you were a kid or maybe into high school, what'd you want to be when you grow up? Did you have aspirations of anything, or were you just kind of, it is what it is?
I think it was kind of an is what it is. I went to a great high school. Really grateful for having a base an education like I did there. They really having had great teachers, I think really encouraged me to be a lifelong learner, which I've valued ever since. But as far as what I wanted to be when I grew up, I don't know that I recall really wanting to be anything. I know when I got to high school, I was definitely looking to go down the path where I went to college. I went into corporate America and became, whatever executive and things like that. So when I was in college, that was kind of where my mind was at, and I had always had this entrepreneurial spirit, this kind of draw to start my own business. And I did a lot of that when I was at the fire department. But so I graduated college, and that was my first big pivot actually. And I had an opportunity to join the Cincinnati Fire Department at a young age, and I thought, man, this seems fun. And it was something that had, and it is something I wanted to do as a kid. I always thought those guys were so cool. So
Yeah, I mean, every little boy wants to ride that fire truck, I think. And so you graduated with a finance degree. Did you right out of college? Did you grab a job and then just kind of say, let's try the fire department, or how did that all roll out?
Oh, pretty much. Yeah. I ended up getting a job out of college at a mortgage broker. And the mortgage industry was kind of wonky at that time. And it was a lot of hard selling and things like that. It wasn't a product I necessarily loved and believed in. Um, and it wasn't a good fit. I just wasn't in my purpose at that time. So when the opportunity came to take the fire department test and get hired, my friend said, "Oh man, you should do it. They work there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And when they offered me a job, I thought, "Oh, this sounds amazing. Like, how can I turn it down?" And it was one of the best decisions I made. One of my first early pivots, and one of the most rewarding as well. Working with the people I did and the character traits that they built into me, aside from just being an amazing experience, like my growth there was exponential as a person, and I value that time. So that was my first big pivot, and that's kind of how I happened. I was just kind of discontent with where my degree had landed me. Now circling back, 20 years later, like I use my finance degree all the time in
Right.
commercial real estate, and life's funny like that. It'll come full circle. And but yeah, that first one was one I jumped into, and I stuck with it for 17 years and loved every minute of it. So that's
The
kind of how.
way the way you describe your time at the fire department is what I get when I talk to people that started out in the military. that started out maybe as going into the military because they didn't have a choice, or that's just didn't have any other aspirations. But when they get out, they're like, man, it might not have been what I needed, but it was definitely what I really needed. like, uh, but the fire department, it seems like the same thing. So Cincinnati Fire Department, that's a large paid fire department. Did you do like long shifts on call, or and kind of rotate through that? Did it
Yeah.
afford you time to work on other things, or was it a full time? Uh, you don't want to do anything else while you're doing that.
Very much the first. It was we did a 24-hour on schedule, so we'd work 24 hours on, and then we'd have 48 hours off. So during that 48 hours, yeah, you're up all night for the 24 a lot of the times, but then that's 48 hours. You know, you can lean into your personal life, and a lot of the guys loved it with families, and they were really able to be really good family men. I loved it because it gave me a chance to do work on my side hustles. And my side hustles always, you know, I always started them. I thought I'm gonna build this company. This is gonna be my path to, you know, a cushy retirement, financial freedom, all of it. And what I found with this side hustle, why I liked starting them, they were never really getting me to where I wanted. And that's kind of where I jumped into that real estate space initially, in the residential space. I bought a rental property. I knew real estate was a great option. And I thought, you know what? I know how to build things and I had all this time. Let me do this. And so I leaned into that. And not to get ahead of ourselves, but I again found that that wasn't scalable for me,
Mm.
and that I was stuck yet again, only trading my time for money. So while that was a good investment, it was still not what I needed, which was my time back.
Mm.
And so that and then so that is when I actually started digging in and really leaning into the commercial space, mainly for the passivity of it, and also the scalability. So when I went and I was renovating these places, I would go to work for 24 hours, and all this sweat equity, I'd go and renovate these two families to fix them up as rental properties. And I would spend and it was like one day I'm sitting there, and I think I calculated my hourly. I got hired at my first job when I was like 13 at the golf course, and that was an amazing job too. It's so fun. But I think I made like 275 an hour. And this is years ago. I'm 43, so it's a number of years ago. And I'm sitting there and I'm doing the math, like how much time do I spend working over here at these rental properties? And I thought, you know what? I think my hourly was higher at my first job. And it just hit me, man. It was like I was still only trading my time for money. I was doing something I enjoyed, but it wasn't going to be my end game. And so, you know, and I was just ready, like, okay, let's just move in and lean into something that I had to learn a whole new type of real estate, which was fun. But yeah,
Were
so
you when you were doing your side hustles as a fire department, what kind of things were you doing? Was it construction type things? Was it stuff that led you to that residential real estate flipping market? I know
mhm.
a lot of firemen or contractors on the side and things like that. Was that kind of the wheelhouse you had, or did you have a bunch of different options?
Yeah, I definitely did some of the remodeling with the guys. That was always fun. That was just stuff I enjoyed doing. I still like remodeling stuff. Um, so that was one. I did the grass company like we all do. And it turns out like dealing with customers is like it's a lot more effort than I intended. It's not just I wasn't just going out and cutting grass and having fun. I was like dealing with all this other stuff that was like
Right.
it was a little more overwhelming. So that was a good one. I did that for a while. Always had kind of a side job going here and there. So yeah, kind of whatever I could find. There
So
was a
you
commercial
said
real.
you said the residential real estate wasn't really the path for you, and it kind of capped out. Was that just a matter of time? And if you had been able to, if you had not been able to, if you had just continued to pursue that and built that portfolio bigger, would it have ever reached the point where the commercial did? I mean, if you owned a whole block of rental properties, residential properties, or is there just not that margin there to make it worth it?
It depends. I think that I in no way ever, you know, down residential real estate. It is a great product for a lot of people. And I think it is more a lifestyle fit and what you're looking for. So if there's young people out there that are looking to make real estate a career and build a residential portfolio, time is on your side, and that's a great option. So I'm going in this about when I was about 30, I guess. I'm
Mhm.
starting to get into residential. So I was already a little behind the eight ball on time. So that early buy-in and kind of that exponential growth, I was kind of not, I didn't have the time to build it like that.
All
So
right.
for me, my lifestyle wasn't I wanted to scale faster.
Okay.
And what I really wanted was my freedom of time is what I realized. And
And
I
and
know
in the residential, you're the landlord until you get to a
absolutely.
point where you can hire somebody to do it for you, and then you just go
Mhm.
live on an island somewhere. But that's definitely down the road there. Um, so you were building the residential portfolio while you were still a firefighter.
Mhm.
Did you retire a firefighter? Like, what is the career length of a firefighter, a paid city firefighter? Is that something that you get out, like you do your 20 years and you're out, or is that, did you leave that?
I actually did. I actually retired early.
Okay.
So I did my 17 years wasn't quite my full 25,
Okay, it's
but
25.
yeah, all and to be yeah, truthfully the smoke and the chemicals kind of took their toll on me. So I got out a little earlier than I normally would have, but usually it's a 25-year
Okay.
retirement, and then you go with your pension and go and sail
Do
off.
whatever you want at that point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I have friends that did law enforcement right out of high school, and I'm 40, 48. I think. I just turned 48, and they're retiring now. They're getting their 30 years or 25 years or whatever after the schooling, and they're all retiring, and I'm like, "What are you gonna do now?" They're like, "No idea."
Mhm.
I got no idea. So,
Yeah, and as much as I like, and yeah, retiring early is such a thing, and but then I look at it and it's like, man, if I was really retired and retired and not working, I don't know what I'd do because I enjoy building companies and I enjoy a new challenge, and what I really love is learning something new, learning commercial real estate or even learning fly fishing.
okay.
Leaning into that is really energizing for me.
So you were building the residential portfolio. Did you get into commercial before you were done with the fire department, or did that transition come later?
I had already been transitioning into commercial. So by the time my retirement came, it was just a matter of going from making it a part-time job to a full-time job.
I was gonna say,
So,
did that make it easier to make that decision to retire when you had that kind of transition there?
it was absolutely a nice thing to have already had that in place, um, and had that foundation to go and be able to and just jump right into my next venture fully prepared. So yeah, being a lifelong learner, I had already been really. My moment hit me when I was doing those rental properties. I was still at the fire department, so I had been transitioning out of residential and then into commercial and kind of downsizing my residential stuff for 2 or 3 years before I retired. So I was already full time leaning into commercial at that time.
How did it go when you got to put 100% into it? Did it skyrocket it? Did it get overwhelming? Like, sometimes that side hustle is really nice because it's a side hustle. And then when you dive in whole hog, it isn't what you expected, or sometimes it's the greatest thing ever.
hmm it got energizing. It just kind of knowing that my next chapter was so promising, and I had landed in a space that I really enjoyed. um a lot of the commercial is speaking with investors and things like that, and I actually really enjoyed the marketing aspect of it. I love writing content and educational stuff, so I got to do a lot of that. So there's a lot of time that I had that I could really do things that were work that was energizing me and finding fulfillment in different ways outside of what I had known for 17 years, which was, the go to work every 3 days and do your side hustle and fill your time. And now it's like, okay, yeah, like now I can really fully commit to my next chapter. It was really energizing, really.
So walk me through. I'm thinking about residential real estate, and you get a mortgage or you pay cash or whatever to acquire that property. On the commercial side, it sounds like you're working more with investors to make large sums of money and then dividing that back out from what you said. Is that
Mhm.
kind of the MO there? If you don't have the capital to invest in a large commercial property, you raise funds and do it as a group.
Absolutely. What we'll do is we'll take investors and we'll pool their money, usually about $50,000 at a time, and we'll place a larger chunk of money with our operating partners. And we partner with, some of the best operators in the country, truly, and some of the premier markets in the country. So we'll pool a larger fund of money so we can enter their deals together and gain access to these markets and these operators that way. And to kind of put it in perspective, if you took a $50,000 payment, $50,000 chunk of money, that would be a good down payment for a rental property that would cash flow you, even $800 a month. You could take that same $50,000. And from my experience, what that $50,000 was buying me was a job. It was a good job, but it was still a job for me. What that same $50,000 could buy you, conversely, is if you pull your money together, you could be in an apartment building at scale and be a passive investor in
Mhm.
that the operators, they handle all the operations, the landlording, executing the business plans, all that sort of stuff. um I help them vet the sponsors, vet the deals, we underwrite the deals and all this. So then you can take that same $50,000 and you can go passive. And what that means is that you would place it with them, and after the initial investment, you'd expect quarterly returns in a set amount, and then a set exit price, at which point your returns are projected in that way. So you kind of know what you're getting going in.
So when you made that transition to the commercial side, was it as an investor or was it as a facilitator bringing investors to the deals? Because it
Hmm.
sounds like there's multiple job roles in this whole scenario. What got your foot in the door? It obviously seems like you do all of the above at the moment. But what kind of transitioned you there?
Yeah, so where I transitioned, where I was actually looking at finding the deals myself, putting together what they would call the general partnership, which would run the deal, and then having investors come on with in that way, for my own deal. And what I found was that it was actually another way I niched down and another small pivot. And I'm a huge proponent of professional communities and just community in general. And when I was in these professional communities and masterminds, and I looked around, and I needed to raise money for my own deals, but what I had was access to really great partners. And these operators that I partner with are doing the same thing, but they're doing it better, and they're doing it much more efficiently, and they're just so good at it. And they're saying, "Hey, we'd like you to help raise money for our deals and partner with us in that way." And I thought, well, this is a no-brainer. Like I can take investors' money and find a deal that's better than I was having anyway. Like I can find them a better deal by partnering with people that are very seasoned, very good at what they do and very established in these markets. So what I found was a better product through partnerships for the investor. So that's kind of how I niche down, and that's why I don't source my own deals anymore, is because I actually have access to better ones through these strategic partnerships that
The
I
network effect.
yeah, yeah.
The more people you talk to, the more things open up, and it kind of goes back to your side hustles wherever the wind took you. But it's like you get that the long job, and you're talking to your client, and he talks about some job he's working on the other thing, and it leads you down another path.
Mhm.
It sounds like when you get into dealing with the investor side and the operator side, they're all looking for the same thing. They're all looking to make more money, and it's figuring out how to facilitate that. So,
Absolutely.
so that's where you're at now. You kind of rolled through commercial and you started Flowers Capital. We're at 20 minutes. Would you want to talk a little bit about Flowers Capital, what you're doing, who should reach out and talk to you if they want, and then we'll talk about where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Flowers Capital, if you are looking to get earn passive income, enter the real estate investment space and stop trading your time for money. We have great products, we have great operators. We would love to hear from you and just talk about your goals and investing and what passivity could look like for you in your future. Um, as far as reaching out to me outside of LinkedIn, I encourage everybody to just go to flowerscapital.com. There's actually an ebook at the top that'll talk about the 12 pitfalls you can avoid going into any commercial deal, red flags to avoid, and really kind of start getting everybody prepared to look into these investments, get passive, and really pursue financial freedom.
What kind of dollars are we talking about, Eric? If somebody's interested in getting into commercial real estate, or even residential real estate, you have experience in that. What kind of money are we talking about? People looking at to be have available?
I think $50,000 is a good benchmark number to throw out there for both. I think
Okay.
$50,000 can get you a really nice down payment on a rental property that you could cash flow if you were going residential. And that same $50,000 is a pretty standard minimum investment for a syndication or a partnership, like we were talking with a passive partnership. So that number is usually kind of the number I throw out as kind of the minimum you would look to go in with. And then from there, it's kind of like where does that $50,000 get you, and what's your end game? So
Gotcha.
that's kind of the number I usually look at.
What's your favorite type of commercial real estate? Apartment building, office building, strip mall?
I like multifamily apartment buildings, mainly because coming from residential, that's where my skill set really translates the best, and that's my strongest. Now, I also have really strong operating partners and things like mobile home park developments and some other impact investments. There's some neat impact investment opportunities out there as people get used to learning the ropes of what passive investment looks like. There's some other really neat things out there, some affordable housing products, some debt validation products. So there are a few alternate asset classes. I actually look more at who the operator is rather than the asset class.
Oh, okay.
So I look for a strong operator with that I have a personal relationship with. And most of my operating partners I know on a personal basis and have for a few years. So I trust them, and then they always have the best markets and the best deals anyway. So it kind of
Are
works out like that.
are you working just locally in Cincinnati? Is this nationwide? Is this worldwide?
Mhm.
What's your target there?
I do look at Cincinnati a little bit, but actually we are nationwide. So we actually just closed the deal in Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix is a fabulous market, great demand drivers and things like that. So that'll be a great one. Continuing to look at Phoenix, some other markets maybe in Texas. We mentioned Cincinnati, even Louisville. So there are a few markets that we are partial to, mainly of where our operating partners are. So it is nationwide.
Gotcha. Um, little shift a little bit. You mentioned fly fishing. Uh, how'd you get into it? Just a random whim, or was it something you'd always been interested in and decided to learn it? Or
hmm I'll tell you what, it was a whim. It seemed like something that was fun. I bought a fly rod, took a free class, and it turns out a friend of mine from the firehouse was doing the exact same thing outside of me. So we teamed up and we started going on fishing trips like 15 years ago or something, and we learned it together. And I love it. It is a rabbit hole, but it is so fun. It takes me really great places to travel. It's therapeutic. There's always something new to learn. There's always a new cast to learn or a new book to read or something.
right.
So it is just a neat thing. And yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that's a sport I love. Yeah.
Did you get into tying flies at all?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. I
I
watch the YouTube videos and I got my readers on. I do my little fly tie and yeah, I do it all.
Nice, nice. Anyway, Eric, I really appreciate you coming on. It was educational for me for sure on the real estate side. I'll have your links in the video and the audio description. I'll send people to LinkedIn to connect with you and off to flowerscapital.com
Mhm.
if they want to see more. Any parting words, and then we can wrap it up, I suppose.
No, I just want everybody out there to enjoy their next pivot and keep pursuing their own dreams. And I look forward to hearing everybody else's story in the future as well.
Awesome, Eric. I appreciate you being here. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.